Tanya.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for agreeing to spend a bit of time today and come in and talk to us about kind of like your journey in terms of spirituality and things like that. Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So if
It's
you're
great to
ready,
be
we
here.
might just jump in if that's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
And I wondered, can you tell us first just a little bit about you? Who are you? What do you do? That
Yeah.
type of thing.
Awesome. So I'm Tanya. I'm a coach as well as a yoga teacher, and I'm also a mum of three. So I've got a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old, along with a hubby as well, who often gets forgotten in that convo. But he's there too. So with my business, what I do is I work with women in particular who are wanting to create and experience more freedom and flow. Often they want to create a bit more trust around what their truth really is, and getting that connected more to their mind, body, and soul. So that's what I do there. I also have a normal job, I guess you would say, which is in tutoring. So I work for a polytech, and so I do marking and facilitation, which I've been doing for quite a while. That's me, I guess, in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Yeah, or what I do.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. So the term spirituality can mean, 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. So for you, what meaning do you kind of associate with that word?
For me, spirituality is probably just having a knowing that there's something bigger than yourself. I think I came from a Catholic schoolgirl teen life, I guess, and I went to a Catholic primary as well, so I was immersed in Catholicism. And as I got older, I realized that was just, it wasn't for me, and I didn't like it. I didn't like how they were doing it at school, and I sort of rebelled against that whole thing. But later in life, it's sort of various things that have happened, and it's just led me back to that of this knowing of it's actually, whether it's a faith, whether it's crystals, whether it's paganism, whatever it is, it's actually just having an acceptance and knowledge that there's something more than you.
Okay, so you've kind of referred to a few different things there. How did your journey kind of start?
Yeah, I guess for me it was first off when I realized that the Catholic schoolgirl thing just really wasn't for me. And I guess I went off the rails a bit at that stage. So I remember, and I've actually really only just started sharing this, is that when I was like 16, all I wanted to be was a witch. That was my thing. I think it was the time of Sabrina, the teenage witch, and stuff came out, and all of that, and that movie, The Craft, and they all kind of came out and was like, yeah, that is my jam. I like that. And I but then of course, other things happen, and you don't really think any more about it. But really traveling into more of this realm, I think I've been doing it just not in a overt way for a really long time, whether it's been with hearing, like, so clairaudience, like I've always had this sort of clairaudience, and it's sat there but not really listening, so sort of knowing that intuition, I guess that's probably been a really, and I think for a lot of people that's probably a good sort of start point as well for that spirituality, is it's going, that's my intuition, and knowing what that is. And then I guess about 6 years ago, I started attending our local church. Quite coerced initially, I have to say. I was like, no, because two of my kids had naming ceremonies at the Buddhist monastery in Wellington, which was wonderful. But I was my aunt was like, no, you need to come to church. You've said that you want to introduce them to different ways of faith and blah, blah, blah. You need to come. And so I finally reneged. and went, and I still go now. And it's actually been a really big part of my spiritual journey, because what it's introduced me to is a different way of looking at faith, a different way of looking at God and what this God figure is. Different ways of looking at things like Mary Magdalene and Jesus, sort of looking further afield than just what is in a building.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe that answers.
So that's quite interesting. So what type of church is it?
So it's a Presbyterian.
Right.
Presbyterian church.
Yeah.
And I think the difference for me being in there is that my minister is so happy to have these conversations with him. But he's really happy for me to turn around and say, well, I like oracle cards. Like, you know, I use oracle cards all the time. And I've read the books on Mary Magdalene and how she was treated post crucifixion and things like that. And he's happy to engage in that conversation.
Yeah.
He often beats me because he has so much more theological knowledge to be able to back himself up. And but the fact is I can have that conversation, whereas that was never something I was able to have. So being able to explore it in different layers is probably quite a big thing. Like I did a course through a really awesome woman who does intuitive gifts, and she's a very talented in what she does. And the way she explained it to me, because you very, very rarely get someone who attends church and is cast as spiritual. You don't really see the two combos. Yeah. Mainly because this one's so much dogma. This one's so open to interpretation. And the way she explained it to me was that actually they're all just one and the same, because you look at it in a way of, well, you don't have to pay attention to the dogma, but the message is very similar to Wiccan or, you know, any other part of spirituality, where you really, what you're wanting is to look inside yourself and to then come out and notice what you notice.
Yeah. And it's actually, I think it's a really important point that you were kind of making before when you were saying about your minister. It's actually really, really healthy to be able to have those debates, right? And it's not about right or wrong. No. It's about expressing an opinion, and you don't have to believe or buy into the other person's opinion, but it's just respecting that they can have an opinion which is completely opposing to yours, and that's okay.
Yeah,
you know, we don't have to. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be these. You know, different things can coexist in the same space, and that can be okay for everybody. You know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And looking at it is from a point of view is like he said to me when we got our youngest, she got christened there, and we had to, you know, say what we thought God was, because that is just sort of, that's one of those things that if you're going to get it done, it drives me nuts when people just do it just because that's what the family's done. And so we had to say what it was. And for me, it was really just a case of God is everywhere. God is an energy. It could be God, universe, spirit. It doesn't actually matter what the name is. For me, it's everywhere. It's you finding it in that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. It's really great when you can find those people and have those conversations. Really great.
Oh, yeah.
So do you find yourself kind of using your gifts, like we were talking about the clairaudience? Would you call them gifts, first of all, I suppose?
Yeah. I don't know whether I feel like everyone probably has it. Like to an extent, that's sort of what it feels. It feels like more people. There's probably a lot more people that have it. They just don't either have a name for it, or they're just like, oh God, I'm talking to myself.
But make complete sense at the same time.
How did that make sense? Yeah, exactly. So funny. Yeah.
Very good. So do you find you use them more and more in everyday life? It's almost like it becomes not a conscious thing anymore. It's just there, type
Yeah.
thing. Is that what you've kind of found over a period of time?
Yeah. And often what it's done is assisted me in making various decisions, and ones that are really, in the past I would just run with, no, I'm doing this because that makes more logical sense.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess I've started making decisions based on, it's not as logical, but it feels better if I do this one. Yeah. So I think that's probably more of what it is.
Yeah. Cool. And so do you get the validation from that, okay, I'll go this way, and then, a positive outcome from that means next time you're more likely to kind of go with that feeling and not necessarily the pure logic kind of option?
I think so. Like I find it really funny because you kind of go, like, I'll go, right, I'm going to go with this decision. And often I then find that there's something that solidifies that decision as well. So I've got a situation at the moment where it's actually going the opposite, where everything is solidifying on the logical.
Yeah.
But yet I'm still sitting there going, no, it's not right. I need to actually go the other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's often then what happens is actually that stops us. So because we're sitting in here going, oh, well, everything's lining up logically, so this must be where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they don't, or you don't sort of look then, but what is your heart actually telling you to say? Is it actually still going, pulling the back of your shirt and going, hey, no, actually pull back, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because for a lot of people just kind of like starting out or experiencing this kind of path, that's one of the questions that seems to come up quite a lot, isn't it? Well, how do I know it's true? How do I know it's right? How do I know I'm not going crazy because there's like this voice in my head? Or and even to some people thinking, is that like a bad thing in my head? And from what you've just described, it's literally a matter of you kind of make a decision and you see how that pans out based on whether you've listened to that voice or not, right? So, is what I'm understanding from what you've said, and kind of building on that type of thing and that experience, and knowing therefore that it's valid, kind of like the information that you're getting, because a logical mind can kind of get in the way sometimes.
Especially I think as well, often it's not really that there's a right or a wrong. There's either a step forward or a learning as well. So even if it doesn't, even if you do listen, maybe there's actually something better that's still trying to make its way. And I think when people do start out and they start thinking about it, one of the things I was told was if it's your higher self, it'll be saying you, and if it's your ego, it'll be saying I.
Right.
And I think I really like that, and it often ticks over. And so, and you test it. You do test it a little bit, and you go, oh, and I'll hear myself actually going, oh, I really think I have to do it this way, and or something like that, and I'll be like, that's just me talking, like that's just me being logical. Like I really need to stay in this job, for example, or something. Is me just going, I've just got to stay there because that'll keep me constricted and it will keep me safe and I will be okay. But when you start hearing that, for me anyway, starting hearing a voice, or sometimes you just hear, the radio's going and you hear the lyrics or whatever it is, and you'll notice, and you'll hear something and you'll be like, well, how's that for a message?
And those things, I don't know if you found, tend to come quite thick and fast once you kind of like start picking up on them, and those validation things as well, and things like that. So that's interesting. Through kind of like your journey so far, is there any kind of course or book or movie or something that kind of really resonated with you that you would kind of recommend to other people that might help?
I did the Gifted Experts course with Jessica Reed, And Jessica's a Kiwi. She lives in Australia at the moment, but she has developed a wonderful course that explains to you about what these intuitive gifts are, and she does it in 2 phases. So phase 1 is more about what the gifts are and how they might be and what your gifts are, and there's meditations and working on with your inner child and all kinds of things, and that's phase 1. I think that's a really nice intro course. And it, just because she's been doing this for a number of years, she's really young and she's just incredible. Like, she totally owned it from a really, quite a young age, like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, we don't get until we're in our 30s or ready to actually go, okay, I don't care what people think of me anymore. That's when we might hit it. Or for me, that's what was definitely when I hit it, and I was like, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But she sort of owned it from a very early age. So I'd recommend her course. I think just being open to what comes along as well. I think the couple of things. One is if you are called to a coach, then working with a coach is powerful. Not coming from a mentorship point of view, but coming from helping you to understand yourself better. I think that can be really useful. I think looking at practices that maybe you have had and you've really liked, and maybe exploring those a little more. So if yoga's been something that's been really powerful for you, explore it. If Reiki's been something that you've really enjoyed when you've had that, learn a little bit more about it. I think it's following your intuitive nudge as to what you're into. So I'll show you. I've got this book here at the moment. This is my book, Witch, and it's everything from all kinds of embodying your truth again, right through to herbalism and plants and stuff. And for me, that's actually something I've realized that I'm really interested in. Same as I deal a lot with energy cycles and moon cycles. So if you just follow that nudge, and if it, because you can't go wrong learning something new, you just sort of never know what that might pop into.
And I guess, I don't know if you're the same, you kind of like, you might read through something, whether it's an article or book or whatever, and you can kind of like, you kind of pick out the bits that resonate with you more, and you just kind of let the others go, or they're kind of in the back of your head somewhere, but they're not really your thing, but the others are a bit more front and center about you might choose to do a bit more with those things.
I totally agree, because I think there's a lot of like that you need to know exactly what you're going to do the moment you leave school, and you need to know, you're going to get into your job by you're 25, and that's all you're going to do until you're 50, and you need to put all your effort into your job. But really, you actually need to put that effort into working out what's true for you. And if that means that you start learning a little bit more about the things that make you excited, or you start going to an art class because you loved art as a kid or whatever it was, but you stopped doing it, that helps, I think, to bring out your intuitive gift, that spirituality in you anyway, because you're coming closer to what is bigger than you are.
No, that's fantastic, thank you. Is there kind of anything else, any kind of key things that you've experienced along the way that you would like to share, other than what you've already talked about today?
There's probably not a lot. Like for me, I've seen spirit, which is, I think, something, because for a lot of people that makes them really nervous, like, like really, really scared. And I think, but that's something that runs in my family. So my brother does as well. And his is really weird and creepy, but mine's not too bad. It's like really odd. He woke up one evening and could see several figures around his bed. So that was quite full on for him. But for me, like, seeing spirit is something that it's not all occurring, like it's not every day, and I
Yeah.
can't, and I don't just like stand beside someone and go, oh, look who they've got hanging out with them. Like, it's nothing like that. It's more just someone. I had an experience with my daughter where she was in her cot and I went to walk into her room, and it was definitely my sister who passed away when I was 21, just sitting beside the cot in the chair, and I just screamed because it gave me the biggest fright ever. But really, that's just what it was, and it was fine. And so I just think sometimes the things that you actually don't think you're seeing are quite likely the things you are actually seeing. It's not your brain, playing tricks, and you're not crazy. You just need to just be aware of it.
And like you're saying, sometimes, especially the first time, these things can make us jump and go, oh my gosh, what's happening, type thing. But it's almost like, say if you stood in the kitchen, somebody came up and poked you in the back, it'd make you jump, but it doesn't really hurt, does it? It's not going to hurt you as such, but it just makes you jump because you weren't expecting it. It's like that unexpected notion. So it's not like a fearful thing. It's a, oh my goodness, type thing. And not being afraid of that, of that experience, especially in your case, because obviously your sister had come to see your daughter.
She's come to see my daughter.
And which is a really amazing thing. I always think that's a wonderful thing, auntie coming in and checking, and I'm sure for your brother as well, maybe a slightly bigger jump with a few people around him, but like a first experience. But again, doesn't need to be a fearful experience, and it's, I guess, like you're saying, it's going back to, you go and you learn about these things and what they're about and what the people or the spirits want, and so on and so forth. But it's something, to kind of just gather knowledge around,
and you can just explore.
And don't believe everything you see in the movies.
Exactly. Like paranormal and things like that, they're not it doesn't happen like that. I'm sure there's the occasional experience of that, but to me, it doesn't seem like it would be the most common. I think I hear of people as well who say that they can smell a perfume and things like that. I had an experience not too long ago, actually, and it was my nana's perfume, and I could smell it, and I hadn't smelled, like, she had old Avon, Avon perfume, and I could smell it. And for the life of me, I was like, I've been around no one who's got Avon. I've, anywhere, and that's all I could smell. And so I think little things as well. I was going to say, maybe as a really good entry for people is any of Gabrielle Bernstein's books. I just think that just because they talk about how a little bit more around the simply for energetics. So one of her books is called the Universe Has Your Back. So it's a great way of just having a wee read about a trust and just having a bit more trust in the universe.
No, that's great. Thank you for that. So you were talking at the beginning when we first started talking, obviously you have your own business. So if somebody's watched this today and they want to get hold of Tanya and see more of what you do, and the yoga and using your gifts and coaching and so on and so forth, so what's the best way to get in touch with you if anybody would like to?
So you can get hold of me on my website, which is www.tanya with a Y, carsmith.com. I've also got a Facebook group that is coming around. You'll be able to find that, which is the Nature and Nurture Haven. So you'll be able to find that on Facebook, particularly for women. I also host retreats. So I have a retreat coming up in the Marlborough Sounds. So, which is lovely for those of us, in New Zealand, we can't travel anywhere. So, if you want to explore a bit of your country.
Absolutely. What a beautiful place to be stuck.
Exactly. So that's where you can. And as I say, I sort of work with people who, wanting to get that more of a connection. I do a lot around nature and the cycles, but a little bit of your own little magic. So yeah,
that's perfect. Thank you. So thanks for coming and talking to us today, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. So thank you.
You're welcome. See you.
Bye.